All right, everybody, how's it going? It is Tuesday, September 12th, 2023, and of course, we just finished with week 1 of the NFL, so it's only natural, it's only right we jump into week 2, get our picks out of the way, talk about week 1 for a second, and, get week 2 done, as I just said. Yeah, week 1 we did pretty good. We went 9-7 overall, which is a major improvement from last season when we went 4-11-1, which is embarrassing. But this week, not so bad. 9-7 I think is respectable. A couple crazy games that I just didn't see happening. Forgot about the Browns never losing to the Bengals. And you know how we talked about the Buccaneers and the Vikings? We were like, oh, this could be an upset, but we went with the Vikings anyway. We should have went with our gut on that one. So this week we're trusting our gut. We're ignoring the lines. We're ignoring all that. The lines are included as always, but again, they're more so just there for aesthetic purposes, so we know who's favored and who's not. They have no influence on the games. I'm gonna try, using a bit of week 1, my gut feelings, and kind of what I've seen in week 1 to build on week 2. Because again, it's still kind of hard to determine what teams are just based on week 1. Because again, week 1's like the sloppy football time. Teams don't look the sharpest. Teams kind of improve from week 1 to week 4. So, excuse me. Burp means it's a good luck video. Remember that. But yeah, so, that's always kind of the tough part of week 2. And of course, my condolences to the Jets fans out there. That's a pretty tough break. Hopefully Rodgers didn't actually rupture his Achilles tendon and everybody's just kind of overly cautious about it. But it does seem like bad. He's probably out for the year. So I feel bad for the Jets fans on that one. So, hopefully it's, not the Achilles, but by the way it looks like that. But anyway, let's jump into week 2 of the NFL Pick'em and and get started. We got some games to go over, but before we do that, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Make sure you leave your picks down below. I like to see, that's the most important thing, is leaving your picks, so that way I can see what you're picking, how you did last week, and see how, just go head to head all year. It's always a fun thing to do in the channel, right? See who does the best. All right, Thursday Night Football, we have a pretty good one. It's the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. As always, the lines are from FanDuel. Again, they're included just to see who's favored. Eagles are favored by 7 with an over-under of 48.5. Minnesota lost 20-17 to the Bucs, as we just alluded to, and the Eagles played a very close one against the Patriots, 25-20. So basically in this one, I'm going with the Eagles over the Vikings, 28-17, mainly because I just both offenses didn't look the greatest in Minnesota and Philadelphia, but I think Philadelphia looked better going against the Patriots defense that was really good. They only scored 18 points against the Patriots defense, but again, they looked pretty sharp. The Patriots defense is probably going to be a top 5 unit this season, whereas the Buccaneers, they looked really good, but how long are they going to be able to keep that hyper aggressive play up? It doesn't seem like something they can sustain. Plus, I don't know. Looking at Philadelphia's defense, which was also really good, it basically gave Philadelphia 14 points. It gave them a pick 6. It also set them up inside of the 10-yard line on a fumble recovery, or It gave them a fumble recovery that they scored on. So it's kind of like the Eagles defense looked really, really good, and Minnesota's line wasn't so great. Their offense kind of looked really choppy, sloppy. Again, the Bucs defense looked amazing, but I don't know if that was a product of Minnesota's offense just playing kind of bad. So again, if Minnesota runs out there on a short week and runs that offense out there again against this Eagles defense at home in Philadelphia, that's probably a really bad day for Minnesota coming. Things didn't look sharp. Kirk looked off. Line looked bad. They're kind of in a weird flux year. They got rid of a few players so you could kind of see where things are a little bit, still coming together. Plus, Thursday night, home team, big advantage there. Philadelphia's got a better defense than Minnesota does. And there were moments where Baker looked really, really good against the Vikings defense. And I'm like, all right, if Baker's going to look really good at moments and look like he might have something again, then I'm guessing that the Eagles are going to be able to kind of come down there and look really good, especially if it's not raining. The weather's better than it was in Foxborough, This is probably going to be a much improved game for the Eagles. I got them winning pretty comfortably. Minnesota might be in for a long year. All right, Sunday 1 p.m. football. We have the Packers taking on the Falcons. Packers are 1.5 point favorites with an over-under of 40.5. The Packers destroyed the Bears 38-20. Jordan Love looked solid in his Packers starting era debut. So maybe the Packers are off to a good thing here in the new times. The Falcons won one of the most boring games I think I've ever seen, 24-10. They basically just ran the ball. The Panthers are kind of dead in the water, and they won. It was one of those things where I'm like, all right, so the Falcons are completely one-dimensional, so they can really run the ball, but it doesn't seem like they have any kind of pass game. And even their defense seems like weirdly one-dimensional, where it's like they can play the pass well, but it seems like they can't really get a pass rush, and I'm guessing that's going to affect the run game down the road. And if you're playing a team like Green Bay that can run the ball, pass the ball, and play, they kind of have a dynamic offense by the looks of things, I wonder if that one-dimensional defense gets kind of problematic for Atlanta, where it's like you're not getting pressure, so Jordan Love is kind of slicing you apart, or they're running the ball down your throat, so you kind of have to compromise what is a pretty good secondary and kind of play the pass or play the run with it a little bit. So I could see that being a problem. And again, Green Bay's defense is pretty good, so if you're a one-dimensional offense that can't really throw it, I would imagine Green Bay is going to be able to come in and shut the run down pretty good, especially since there is like almost no threat of throwing it seems anyway. Again, Atlanta could change it, but until we see it, it's hard to say that a team that has dynamic play in Green Bay is going to lose to a very static, like one-dimension team in Atlanta. Atlanta looked better, but I think there's still a little ways to go. I think the Panthers are just real bad. The Raiders take on the Bills. Bills are 8.5-point favorites with an over/under of 47.5. The Raiders won a boring one against the Broncos, 17-16, and the Bills lost a weird one to the Jets, 22-16. I think the Bills are better than what happened last night. I think it's a combination of bad weather, first game of the season. The switch from Aaron Rodgers to Zach Allen, I think, threw the Bills defense off. As you prepare for Aaron Rodgers for 2 weeks, who's nothing like Zach Wilson, then Zach Wilson comes into the game. It's kind of like a sudden, like, what the fuck do we do now? It's like a weird adjustment you have to make, and it's not easy to make. So I could see why the Bills kind of gave up 22 unanswered and couldn't figure it out, but their offense looked real bad. So you have to kind of count that up to the Jets defense and week one jitters. Week one sloppy play. I would imagine the Bills clean it up and come out here and look a lot better against the Raiders defense that isn't anywhere near what the Jets are, because the Jets are arguably like the best defense in the NFL and the Raiders probably aren't. Now I don't know about no 8.5-point line. That seems a little ridiculous, but I do see the Raiders keeping it kind of close. I don't really know if the Raiders offense is going to be super good, because again, the Broncos defense is good. It's just one of them weird things where I'm like, I don't really know what the Raiders are. They've won, but was that because the Broncos are going to suck again? Or is it because the Raiders are going to be this pretty good team? They have a good coach, a good offensive coordinator coach, a winning quarterback, decent offensive weapon. It's not bereft of talent. I don't know. I feel like the Bills will win this game in a close one because the Bills are going to clean everything up, and I don't know if the Raiders have the secondary for the Bills receivers. That's the big one in this one. Another good game. There aren't a lot of good games this week after this. The Baltimore Ravens take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals are 3.5-point favorites with an over/under of 46. The Bengals are coming off a bad 24-3 loss in which they didn't even throw for 100 yards to the Browns. They always lose to the Browns. We should have picked the Browns. Burrow's 1-5 against the Browns. And the Ravens come off a very ugly 25-9 win against the Texans, in which the players were all we're all rusty. This is a split kind of series to me. It kind of usually is, but I think the Bengals typically have dominated this series since Burrow came into the NFL. I think it's pretty much the Bengals win these games. So I'm going to go with the Bengals at home in this one. They seem to kind of, again, they falter against the Browns. I'm not really sure what happens, but I'm guessing against the Bengals, they pop back to life and kind of look more like the Bengals we expect them to be. Again, this is a split series, so it's a home. It's just, maybe the AFC North is weird, kind of like the NFC West, where it's just certain teams have the certain advantages and almost always win those games. I don't know. I don't know. Both these teams looked bad this last week. The Ravens were lucky they played Houston. I don't know. Neither team looked good, so I'm going to go with the Bengals getting it together, and they kind of have good luck against the Ravens. So give me the Bengals in a weird home win. This is a pretty fun game. It's going to be Seattle playing Detroit. Lions are 5.5-point favorites with an over-under of 49. Lions actually beat the Chiefs in their season opener 21-20. Really good game. And the Rams got beat up pretty badly, 30-13 to the Rams. Or the Seahawks got beat up by the Rams pretty bad, 30-13. So with this game, basically, Seattle's going to be out 2 other starting offensive tackles, it appears. And that pretty much just destroyed the Seattle offense in the second half. And I'm imagining, since they're going to be in a very hostile Detroit, down 2 offensive linemen to one of the better defensive lines in football, potentially, that was all over Mahomes, just couldn't follow through on the sacks. I would imagine that Detroit defense, who looked really good, is going to be able to shut down the Seattle offense, missing linemen. Especially when it's gonna be home, loud, line with 2 new people in a loud building, that could lead to all kinds of problems, false starts, just weird situations where Detroit can take advantage. Detroit's offense is probably going to want to spread their wings against a not so great Seattle defense that just gave up 30 to the Rams. Excuse me. So I'm going to go with the Lions here in this game. It's pretty straightforward. Seattle could win this game because they can run the ball well, and Detroit's run defense last year was a little shaky, but they looked really good against the Chiefs. So I'm going to go with Detroit. Seems like a pretty straightforward win with Seattle having the linemen out. All right, let's see what the next one. Oh boy, who cares? The Indianapolis Colts take on the Houston Texans. Colts are 1-point favorites with an over-under of 40. I'm going to go with the Colts because they looked better in their loss than the Texans did in their loss. Though the Texans have a good defense, I think the Colts have a pretty good team in the future. That's all I have for that game. The Kansas City Chiefs take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chiefs are 3-point favorites with an over-under of 51.5. The Chiefs lost, again, as we just said, a very close game to the very good Lions. And we just talked about the Jaguars. They beat the Colts 31-21. Basically, the way I'm looking, and Chiefs are favored by 3, over-under 51.5. The reason I'm going with the Chiefs in this one is because, again, I think the Chiefs played a better team, and the Lions are pretty good. I think they have one of the better offenses in the NFL. I think they have a shockingly good defense, and the Chiefs were able to hold down that Lions defense to just 21 points. So that was rather impressive. Actually, it was just 14 because Lions had a pick 6 in that game. So the Chiefs looked really good holding the Lions down. So I would imagine that they're going to be able to the Jaguars have a very good offense, but I think the Lions have a better one. So I would imagine, an easier offense for the Chiefs. It'll be better. They'll have Chris Jones back. That'll be huge. Travis Kelce may play in this game, so that'll be big. And, it just seems like the Chiefs are going to be out for revenge in this one, whereas the Jaguars played the Colts and kind of struggled. I know it's a division game, but it's like, I don't really like seeing that, especially since the Colts led for a large portion of the game, and then the Jaguars came back late and took it. I kind of think this is the Chiefs' game to lose. Kind of situation, you know what I mean? Like they should be much improved. They're playing somewhat easier offense and a not as good defense, surprisingly. So I don't know. Give me the Chiefs over the Jaguars. Another who gives a shit game. The Chicago Bears take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucks are 3-point favorites with an over-under of 41.5. This game's rather self-explanatory why I took the Buccaneers. They look pretty good against the Vikings, who are a good team. The Bears looked, like last year's Bears against the Packers, so I'm going to go with the Bucks. Yeah, some games I don't have a lot of stuff for because, who cares? It's week 2 for the Bears and Bucks and Colts and Texans. Ooh. The Los Angeles Chargers take on the Tennessee Titans. Chargers are 3-point favorites with an over-under of 45.5. Both teams lost their games. The Chargers lost a very good game to the Dolphins, 36-34. The Titans lost a nail-biter to the Saints, 16-15. That sucked. So the way I kind of break this down is I look at, Titans have a very good defense, but it seems like their offense is bad again. And whereas the Chargers, I don't know if they have a bad defense or if Miami's offense is just that cracked. Their defense probably stinks. But the Chargers also have a very good offense based on what I was seeing. So I'm kind of looking at this all right, so if the Titans wake up and get into the Titans are they're a good AFC South team. They'll be fine in their division, but I don't think they're good versus the rest of the NFL with Ryan Tannehill leading the team. So until they get rid of Tannehill, it's hard to pick him against serious other teams like the Chargers who can go head to head with teams in shootouts. I don't know. I like the Chargers in this one. Titans aren't any kind of where near the Titans. Oh, I said that wrong. The Titans aren't like offensively anywhere near the Chargers. Defensively, it's like the Titans are a little bit ahead of the Chargers. So feels like this game kind of has who gives a shit energy on it. I don't know why. It feels like 2 years ago this would have been a good game. If like you took this year's Chargers and 2 years ago Titans, that's one hell of a football game. All right, let's get into the 4 p.m. games, huh? Oof. This game's hilarious. The New York Giants take on the Arizona Cardinals. Giants are 4.5-point favorites with an over-under of 39.5. The funniest thing about this game is the fact that the Cowboys beat the Giants 40-0, and now everybody's just ripping on the Giants. Boy, it was bad. Oof, boy, there's some good memes out there. Giants look like dog shit. Seems like they paid the wrong guy. We'll see if they can turn it around against the Arizona Cardinals, because if they can't, that's the end of the Giants. That's all I have to say. They have to win this game. It's a must-win already for New York. San Francisco 49ers take on the Los Angeles Rams. The 49ers blew the Steelers out 30-7. Their defense looked really good. Offense looked solid. The Los Angeles Rams won 30-13. Similar story. Matt Stafford looked good in his return. Both teams are 1-0. The most unfortunate thing for the Rams in this game is Sean McVay always beats Kyle Shanahan always beats Sean McVay because Kyle Shanahan birthed the coach of Sean McVay. So everything Sean McVay knows and does is like filtered through this lens of Kyle Shanahan can predict it because it's Kyle Shanahan's thought process. I mean, we all know this. Like, I don't have to explain the 49ers beat the Rams. Literally, you could have a 1-win 49ers team going up against a 15 or 16-0 Rams team or a 14-0 Rams team, and the last 2 games are the Rams or something like that, or 49ers, and the Rams will lose 2 games. It's like the craziest shit I've ever seen. It's like an irrelevant thing. 49ers will beat them. It's like crazy if the McVay actually wins this game. I don't know why it's like that. It's like weird voodoo magic. Seriously, look it up. It's crazy. Sorry, Jets. I wanted you guys to win this game. New York Jets take on the Dallas Cowboys. As we pointed out, the Cowboys won 40-0 over the Giants. They just destroyed them. Their defense is fast, physical, scary looking. Very, very good defense. Very good offense. So look out for the Cowboys this year. And then we also have the Jets. Well, that was a good win for the Jets. They went on a walk-off punt against the Bills. As we kind of pointed out, they did lose Aaron Rodgers probably for the year to an Achilles tendon rupture, but Zach Wilson came in and played pretty good, though I do think it had more to do with the Bills were 2 weeks prepared for Aaron Rodgers than Zach Wilson plays. That could lead to some confusion, some not readiness, some things just not working out right, and that's kind of how I think the Jets offense didn't look miserable. But now they have to go play the Cowboys, who have a very good defense. They're going to destroy that bad line. Wilson's probably going to have a rough game. Maybe unless they really did fix Zach Wilson up and now he's like a good quarterback. I don't really see how he's going to just come out here and dominate against the Cowboys or even look good, especially with what the Cowboys just did to Daniel Jones. Oh my goodness. And the main culprit of that game for the Giants, I don't even think it was Daniel Jones. It was literally that Giants offensive line, and the Jets line is worse than that. So good luck. Well, and I think the Jets will keep it close because, again, their defense is very good. So I can imagine them kind of creating a lot of turnovers, keeping the Cowboys offense grounded. And I kind of see like a 2013 kind of game in this one. Pretty close, but not exactly like end of the world. And there's another who gives a shitter. But yeah, if it's unfortunate for the Jets, but I really wanted you guys to win. But like, I just don't believe in Zach Wilson against this defense specifically. Washington Commanders take on the Denver Broncos in Denver. Broncos are 3.5-point favorites with an over-under of 39.5. We kind of already covered all these teams' games. The Broncos offense looked really bad again. It just doesn't look like it clicks. It doesn't get going. Russell Wilson still doesn't really look like he's got it. He played better, but the team just isn't able to score. Very good defense, so I can imagine this being like a defensive game. Basically, I was just more impressed with the way the Commanders looked than the Broncos, so I'm going with the Commanders. I feel like they have kind of similar defensive teams, whereas I just feel like the Commanders just feel a little bit better of an offense. They scored more points. Yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, you can kind of just like flip a coin. I mean, you could take the Broncos because they're home, but I'm going with the Commanders because I feel like the Commanders defense will shut down a very limited Broncos offense. And I can imagine the Commanders accidentally getting a couple touchdowns, like, whoops-a-daisy, look what we got. And then they win the game. That's how that'll go. Whoops-a-daisy. Because, you know. All right. Well, here's me getting called a homer. All right. Alrighty. Here's my upset pick, I guess, even though Dolphins are only favored by 2. The Patriots play the Dolphins in New England, so that's a big thing. I like the Patriots at home, even though Miami does well in New England. This is centered on 2 or 3 things that I think will happen in this game, whereas I think the Patriots have a top 3 defense. I think the Dolphins defense is not very good, especially their secondary. I've seen the Dolphins offense go in so go back to last year. It's like Miami's offense looked really bad against the Patriots in week 1 and then scored like 40 points in week 2. So I'm wondering if this is going to be a reverse where they look great in week 1, come into New England where they seem to like the Patriots seem to know how to play Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to keep them kind of like quiet and irrelevant in the game, or at least very muffled and limited to what they're usually able to do. And this is probably going to be some kind of weird low scoring like I have here 24-20 type of game where it's usually like that, even with Skylar Thompson or with Tua in the first game. Tua usually these games don't typically, when both teams are at pretty good health and playing their good style of football, this game usually is pretty low, like middle range scoring. And basically I'm just kind of going with what I've seen in week 1, right? The Dolphins defense looked really weak. They were very susceptible to the run. The Chargers were running it down their throats, running it all over the place. So I'm wondering if that means the Patriots will be able to do something similar with Zeke and Stevenson. The Dolphins struggle to create pressure, and the Patriots actually had a pretty good line. Despite giving up a lot of pressure and 2 sacks, they only gave up 2 sacks with their 2 guards missing. So I'm wondering if the Patriots line is a little bit better than what people thought. The offense looked good. Mac Jones threw for over 300 yards, 3 TDs, threw the ball 50 times, completed 65% of his passes. 1 bad pick, which was a tip pick to the Eagles. And you know what I mean? Like, the Patriots looked pretty solid against the Eagles. They came up short, of course, but I don't know. It's just basically, so in my head, this game kind of boils down to, I think the Patriots will defensively kind of stifle the Dolphins and kind of get them a little playing off their typical thing of being able to just air it out and kind of dominate like that. I think the Dolphins defensively are very limited, and I think the Patriots have a new offense that is actually a lot better than what people are thinking it's going to be, and we'll see how that translates from the Eagles game. I don't know. It's also just my upset pick. I just feel like we're going to win. So I'm going to go with the Patriots over the Dolphins. What a terrible line of logic that was. I'm sorry. That was all mumbled. I feel like it's just the Patriots are going to, and by the way, this doesn't say anything. It's like the Chargers game doesn't really show you much about the Dolphins offense because their defense is really bad. But in a similar way, if Miami plays like dog shit against the Patriots defense, it doesn't really show you anything because it's just 2 polar opposites. It's like, here's a top 3 defense versus a bottom 5 defense. It's like, well, what are we? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just think the Patriots are I think this is going to be a shock win for a lot of people. All right, we have 2 games to go over. Who gives a crap about this first one? I have the Saints beating the Panthers. And then here's the real game. The Browns play the Steelers. Browns are 1.5 point favorites with an over-under of 40.5. I don't really care about NFC South games. I'm going to be really honest with you. That division bores the shit out of me already. It's week 2 and I'm already done with it. Ugh. Yeah, so I have the Browns winning this one. Usually I'd go with the Steelers regardless of what happened, but with how bad that Steelers offensive line is right now, which everybody seemed to forget about because everybody was picking like the Steelers to like upset the 49ers. Again, the Steelers defense is pretty solid, but it's like bad offensive line. Quarterback is very questionable. 1 good receiver or 2. Running game is meh because the line, I don't know. I feel like the Browns, who have a very good defense, and they showed it against the Bengals, and their offense kind of was starting to click in the middle end of that game. I think the Steelers are in for a very shitty surprise when they have to play the Browns, unless they can improve the line in like a very short amount of time. Which I doubt. It's again, the Steelers are a year away. As I said, their line is under development, and they'll have it fixed next year. So I don't know, Steelers fans. It's going to be a bumpy ride. It just sucks that you're playing the 49ers and then the 49ers light defense and the Browns. It's like, fool, those are two rough defenses to get back to back. You won't be bad this year, but when you play teams like the 49ers and Browns, it's rough because they pass rush. So give me the Browns. Pick 'em record 9-7, not great, but not as bad as week 1, which is last year's 4-11-1. So yeah, that was week 2 for our NFL pick'em. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What are your picks? What do you think of mine? Hopefully we do good this week. But yeah, that's about that. Let's get out of here before it's too much longer. I don't want to bore you to death. Final thoughts. Hopefully we have a good week. We'll be live for, we're going to cover some games this weekend. We got Thursday Night Football. We've got the Patriots at Sunday Night Football. We've got the Lions at 1 o'clock. So we've got some good games to cover this weekend. I'm very excited. Should be a fun week. Yeah. But that's about that for week 1 or week 2 of the NFL Pick'em. Hopefully we have a good week like we did in week 1. We'll see how everything plays, everything goes on, and I don't know. Anyway, as always, leave a like, subscribe, leave your picks, all that fun stuff, YouTube mumbo jumbo. Have a good rest of your day, night, morning, mid-afternoon, mid-evening, whenever you kind of listen to this. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Peace out. Go Lions, go Patriots, or we'll go Lions, go Tigers, and of course it's always go Patriots. Yeah, peace out. Thanks for listening, mother trucker. I forgot how to end. How do you stop?